Hey everybody, and welcome back again for the Media Boat Podcast's March Madness 2024 Best Picture Faceoff. That was a mouthful of title, but you get the idea. Yes, it's a Media Boat tradition here every March to break down a tournament of something that we love. And this year we have chosen Best Picture winners at the Academy Awards. This is part 4. We've already done parts 1, 2, and 3, where we're moving through the first round to see who gets on further in our bracket. So far, we've covered movies that break genre expectations, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Parasite, Birdman, and The Artist, of which, in our tournament here, Parasite, and The Artist move forward. We also had social commentary and human stories in part 2, in which we talked about Coda, Nomadland, Moonlight, and Slumdog Millionaire, in which Nomadland and Moonlight have moved on to the second round. And last episode, in part 3, we talked about historical dramas and biopics, in which 12 Years a Slave and Argo moved on, winning against Green Book and The King's Speech, respectively. So, today, we are moving on to part 4 in round 1 and wrapping up round 1 by discussing tense thrillers and suspenseful stories. So these are not necessarily historical. Some are, in fact, completely fantastical, but are tense and suspenseful and are thrillers in the best term, where you don't know what's going to happen until it blows up in your face, sometime very literally. Those 4 movies will be The Shape of Water, Spotlight, The Hurt Locker, and No Country for Old Men. So let's jump into it by hopping on to our tournament bracket here. As you can see, our first matchup happens to be The Shape of Water versus Spotlight. Oh boy, this is tough. Unlike some previous matchups we've seen, these two are nothing like each other beyond the vagueness of their thriller slash suspense. One is very clearly a fantasy. You have Guillermo del Toro's story of a woman who falls for a monster. But is he a monster? Are humans the monsters? All these questions are valid in The Shape of Water. And then we have a different kind of monster, aka the Catholic Church, with Spotlight. Of course, this is the true story of how the Washington Post took down, or at least published an expose on the Catholic Church and the church's unfortunate involvement in priests and the sexual harassment of young boys in the church, and kind of shed light on this in the Boston area. The Boston Globe. Did I say Washington Post? Sorry. The Boston Globe. My bad. Wrong movie. I was thinking The Post. That Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg thing. Never mind. Sorry. I got the paper wrong. Please yell at me. The Boston Globe, because it's Boston. That's important. So very different movies coming from very different angles and different approaches, but both dealing with a kind of universal discussion about what it means to be a monster. How can we keep things that are terrible from happening, but also who is are these things, are sometimes things that we think are monsters not monsters? Are they endearing? Do they deserve to exist? They kind of are two sides of the same coin. So with that, let's talk about the numbers. I have a spreadsheet here that breaks down Metacritic numbers and box office numbers worldwide to see kind of what the cultural context of these releases was. So let's start with The Shape of Water, which has an 87 on Metacritic, not bad, and $196 million worldwide box office gross. Compared to some of the ones we talked about, this is okay, but it's not really in the upper echelon. For example, last time we talked about The King's Speech, $427 million that movie made. So under half of that for The Shape of Water. You know, Guillermo del Toro does make big special effects movies, but they're not necessarily blockbuster special effects movies. They're smaller. They're more complicated in theme. They're more closer to something of an art house movie. And The Shape of Water is definitely one of those. It's not a monster movie in the classic sense. Meanwhile, Spotlight, a better Metacritic here with a 93 rating, but a much lower box office worldwide with only $98.7 million. Like I've talked about before on these shows, you're going to see a smaller worldwide number on stories that are resident really in America. This is an American story, regardless of the Catholic Church being a global institution. This was a lot centered on the city of Boston and very much a Boston story. So it's not going to be as universal, and it's not going to do the numbers in China, India, etc., as something more broad and appeal would. So globally, the numbers don't really tell the whole story here. Which leads us to making a decision here, and I am kind of torn. They're very different movies with very different things that they're trying to accomplish. One, like I mentioned, is a fantasy story and does operate more in the realm of metaphor. There's very little metaphor when it comes to Spotlight. This is something very real, something very specific, something very tense that you're dealing with. So if we're on the subject of a tense thriller, which is the more tense thriller? That might be a vital question to ask here. And I think The Shape of Water, because of those more fantastical elements, I don't necessarily know if it's as tense as Spotlight. Of course, Spotlight's also based on a true story, so the tension is based on your knowledge of that story, if you already know how it's going to work out or not work out, depending on whether you think their reporting really changed how the Catholic Church operates. Then yeah, maybe that tension is lessened a little bit. But that being said, though, having seen Spotlight, it is one of the most gripping dramas I have ever seen in a movie. It keeps you there the whole time. It is really, really a terrific watch, just moment to moment, to watch how these people interact with their stories, how they do their reporting. The tension of each conversation in this film is just impeccable. And I think that is an artistry that cannot be understated. The Shape of Water does a lot of interesting things with its effects. It does a lot of interesting things as a metaphor. And I think that it is fascinating in its own way. But there's no replacing the feeling that Spotlight really gives you in the moment. So, I don't know. I might just have to give it to Spotlight here. It is such a masterclass in depicting some historical event that happened and making it feel like you're watching it in real time. It is just gripping. Gripping is the best word I can use for it. So I'm going to go ahead and move Spotlight up to round 2 because I truly think it deserves it. So that is a win for Spotlight. And now we move on to a toughie here. The Hurt Locker, the winner for Best Picture in 2010, and No Country for Old Men, the winner in 2007. Okay, so this is a tough one. They're both based on a historical timeline. One is fiction, one is not. One is based on a novel. Actually, I don't know if both of them might be. I don't know about The Hurt Locker. The Hurt Locker is interesting for a few reasons. One, it is a movie that's very much about conflicts in the Middle East, specifically the Iraq War, in the late 2000s when it was still kind of a hot-button issue and still actively happening and in a lot of people's minds. And it kind of brought you down to the lives of people who were directly involved in that, specifically the disarmament of bombs. You do have, then on the other flip side, you have No Country for Old Men, a more complicated, less historically centered film that I don't know a whole lot about because I haven't seen it. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. I'm not going to be able to use a whole lot of personal experience in this face-off because I have not seen No Country for Old Men. I know. Yell at me. Yell at me. Tell me to do it. I'll get to it. I just got to carve out the time to do it. It's going to be fine. You're fine. You can yell at me in the comments. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one for me. So I'm pretty much going to base it off of cultural resonance here. And I think there is a clear winner there. But before we get there, I'm going to talk about some of the numbers. So for Metacritic, The Hurt Locker has a 95. Pretty respectable here. In the mid-90s, you're looking at a pretty well-received film. Box office, though. What happened? $49.2 million worldwide. And keep in mind, The Hurt Locker had a kind of a long shelf life. It is notable for being an Oscar winner for when it was released, not the year prior to the ceremony, but the year prior to the year prior. It was in the festival circuit at the end of 2008, even though it was a 2009 movie and a 2010 winner. Or maybe I'm getting those numbers off by a year, but you get what I'm saying. So it only made $49.2 million in its entire time. But again, like I said with Spotlight, keep in mind this is an American-centric story about an American war in a foreign country. But keep that in mind when you're talking about like Chinese box office. Probably didn't even come out there. And keep in mind that, globally, that's just not going to do the same numbers as you're going to get domestic. So that's why you see such a small number here. And also, I don't want to necessarily go here, but The Hurt Locker is notable for being the only movie on this list of directed by a woman. Catherine Bigelow won Best Director also this year for The Hurt Locker, and I think it should be noted, films directed by women don't necessarily do as well in the box office. And yes, that sucks, and it's unfortunate, but it is a fact, and we're looking at the numbers to prove it. Really disappointing. Meanwhile, the numbers, if we go on to look at its competition here, No Country for Old Men, a 92 Metacritic, pretty high, but not as high as The Hurt Locker, but then $171.6 million worldwide, a little bit of a broader appeal. Also, I want to note, 2007, bigger movie year in general. You're going to have a lot more people seeing movies actively in the mid-2000s than you do in the 2010s, where there is more competition for getting butts in seats in theaters. So the numbers don't really tell a very great story here. They're very similar numbers, except for that box office number for the Hurt Locker. So we go back to the movies, and which one of these movies did make the more cultural impact? I don't think it's The Hurt Locker. As much as I admired the movie when I saw it, and I admire the fact that Catherine Bigelow made such a big moment by winning with Best Picture and Director wins that year, ultimately the one that I think that exists more in the people's imagination and the legacy of the Best Picture winners is No Country for Old Men. This is the Coen brothers' biggest win for an Oscar season, and it shows. It's a huge movie. It has an indelible impact on the Best Picture category, and I think it's still this is resonant in a lot of people's minds. I just don't think The Hurt Locker can compete in that realm, the realm of kind of larger meta commentary about the Best Picture winners. And yeah, I know I need to see it in order to really speak to it, but hey, maybe I will before we move on to round 2, where it will definitely show up, because yes, No Country for Old Men will be moving on, whoops, not a negative one, to the second round. And with that, folks, we have round 1 complete. We had, out of 16 films, we now have 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 films remain, and they move on to round 2. Round 2 we will be playing on Tuesday of this coming up week. So the night of the 19th of March, you'll see on YouTube an upload of those rounds, round 4 or round 5 and 6, where we'll talk about these round 2 of movies here, with Parasite facing off first against The Artist, Nomadland facing off against Moonlight, 12 Years a Slave facing Argo, and Spotlight facing No Country for Old Men. So if you want to hear me go absolutely crazy and get everything wrong, again, tune in to those videos. They'll be up on our YouTube channel soon. So tune in, enjoy, yell at us. We'd love to hear your yelling. And wait until the 31st of March, where Mike and I will debate who the final winner of this tournament bracket will be. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys later. I've been Matt. This has been the Media Boat Podcast, Best Picture Face-Off for March Madness 2024. And see you next time. Bye.